Children are being held in Texas detention centers far longer than legal limits allow. A check-in on the immigration crackdown today on the Texas Standard.
Texas Standard is a production of KUT Austin, KERA North Texas, Houston Public Media, and Texas Public Radio in San Antonio.
I'm Laura Rice. People and politicians have rallied around their dislike of data centers, what this PR problem means for tech companies, and we'll check in on why an El Paso project might not be affected by Governor Abbott's new data center regulations. It's been nearly a month since this year's record-breaking flooding in South Central Texas, how it's impacted small towns with few resources, how an Austin nonprofit is trying to support musicians in an expensive city, and a young Texas track athlete's breaking records abroad. That and more today on the Texas Standard. We're hitting a high of 99 today in Tyler, 101 in Lubbock, 106 in Wichita Falls. The northeastern part of the state and into the Panhandle under heat advisories today, along with a portion of the Texas Gulf Coast around Corpus Christi. Areas of the RGV also expected to hit real temperatures of up to 107. It's the Texas Standard for Thursday, August 13th. I'm Laura Rice. The weather and the calendar still say summer, but the schedule is starting to feel more like fall, with schools starting back up across the state. Many parents are celebrating the consistency that brings, while also wondering what happened to those summer days that are somehow individually too long and yet still go by far too quickly. It's that passage of time I'd like to get you all thinking about for just a moment. 100 days ago, that was May 5th. That was the end of last school year, before graduation, before the start of summer, before 100-degree days. Back then, some children were put into immigration detention centers in Texas, and they still aren't out. That's illegal, and it's the subject of a new Texas Tribune investigation. The Trib found many children have been held in the South Texas Family Residential Center in Dilley for 100 days or more. The legal limit is 20. Alex Wynn helped contribute to this investigation. Alex, welcome back to the Texas Standard.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Tell us more about what the data revealed. I mean, how many children and what age groups are we talking about being held in this detention center for long stretches of time?
Yeah, for sure. So as you mentioned, the first thing we should know about the immigration detention of children is that there has been a long-standing legal settlement that sets the limit in terms of how long immigrant children should be held in federal custody. That's 20 days. Under the Biden administration, they ended the practice of detaining families and closed the Dilley facility. But under the second Trump administration, that Dilley facility was reopened in March 2025 and for family detention, basically. And so our data look at the number of children detained at the facility since March 2025. We don't have the most updated data for recent months, such as June or July. But by looking at data that was released through the Deportation Data Project, we were able to see that, this facility had detained around 3,000 children within its first year of renewed operations. And more than half of those children were held there for longer than the 20 days legal limit. We also know that, a lot of children were held for far beyond that 20-day legal limit. And then we also have a small but not insignificant number of children who were held, more than 90 days. And also even into the triple digits. So we have found at least 60 children who were held there for 100 days or more since March 2025. Of course, some had since been released, but in our story, we saw court declarations and were in touch with attorneys for a family, a teenage boy and his mother, who have been held in Dilley for more than 120 days.
So this teen in your story went by the initials SMH. What did you hear from him?
Yeah, so this case is very interesting. His family entered the country over a decade ago. They became green card holders in 2016, and he has been raised in California since then. He saw himself as a average American kid. But earlier this year, in early April, federal government detained the whole family and separate them, putting the father in one Texas detention center and him and his mother at Dilley. And the reason that the federal government has announced in April and since then is that they are a national security risk. And the reason they give is because his grandmother in this case was a famous spokesperson for Iran during the Iranian hostage crisis in the 70s. But the family themselves, they have not committed any crime, and he is a 16-year-old boy. And so the attorneys for the family have said they are being punished for the connection to his grandmother without doing anything wrong themselves.
Lawmakers, including Representative Joaquin Castro, have been calling for the facility in Dilley to be shut down. What, if anything, do you think this new information might do?
I think that there will be continued demands from lawmakers, Democrats, to shut down Dilley. I think it's important to continue keeping an eye on the conditions and the length of stay for children at the facility, especially because medical experts and children advocates told us that it is very detrimental for children to be held in detention for this long. Attorneys who were able to visit Dilley as part of a way to monitor the settlement, they saw children breaking down. They saw children wetting the bed after they have learned how to use a toilet. So I guess regressing on their developmental as children. A medical expert told me that there's no humane way to detain a child. And so it is important to continue keeping an eye on what's happening there and talking to the children to see, how they are experiencing detention.
Alex Wynn is a reporter with the Texas Tribune who contributed to this investigation. We've shared it at texasstandard.org. Alex, thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Big tech companies are hungry for massive computing capacity to provide AI tools, but that's coming up against a big PR problem. Data centers make people mad. Politicians on both sides of the aisle are talking about moratoriums, and citizens are crowding town hall meetings expressing their anger. Our tech expert Omar Gallaga has been considering the data center divide. Omar, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Most of us are familiar with the tension between economic development and a desire to keep our communities the way they are. But data centers seem to turn that conflict up to 11. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's several reasons. The first being that they're spreading really quickly. There's about 2,500 data centers across the country, either active or under construction, but there's plans for thousands more, and that's to keep up with our data needs. I think the people in the data center industry and the tech industry would say, we're building these for you people. I don't know if they use the term you people, but it feels like it. These can cost billions of dollars to construct. They can be the size of use as much electricity as a small city, as well as water resources. And a lot of this is driven by AI, which a lot of people have ambivalent feelings about. They've always been around, but it feels like in the last year or two, people have just gotten more aware of the resources that they're using and some of the dangers, including health concerns. So I think there's just more awareness of what data centers are and how prevalent they are. I don't think people really notice them as much as they do in the last year or two.
All right. Well, you've mentioned a lot of really important points. Let's break those down. First, I want to talk about how this is seemingly bringing people across the political spectrum to join up opposing data centers. I mean, is that striking to you, or is that something we've seen before?
No, that's new. I think this goes beyond the, business is good versus, business is harmful. I think we're starting to see bipartisan support for some of these moratoriums or cancellation of data center projects. And I think that's just politicians becoming aware of just people's concerns that they don't want their electricity bills to go up. If they're in communities where there's water shortages, they're worried about that. I think politicians on both sides of the aisle are becoming attuned to people really don't like these, and we need to at least slow the pace down or study what's going on before we just let data centers do whatever they want. And a lot of it is at the local level. We're seeing local communities either cancel or pause contracts on proposed plans for data centers.
So the water and the power do seem to be the things that come up again and again in these conversations about opposition to data center development. Is that what you're seeing, or is there something else in this aspect of data center development that people really seem to be up in arms about, especially here in Texas?
We talked before about Aaron Brockovich getting involved, and I think data centers have a big target on them right now. I think they are, along with AI, are sort of just people have decided we don't like data centers. We don't like all the things that they bring in terms of the resources that they use, in terms of their connections to the tech industry. But it's also other factors. I mean, there's a debate right now in Bastrop. The California-based Pacifico Energy has a proposal for a data center that is gas-powered. Some of the concern is its proximity to the Earth Native Wilderness School. So it's not just concerns about how much electricity and water usage there's going to be, which, of course, that's a huge concern, but also how close are these to schools? How close are these to communities? Is the noise or pollution going to be a factor for people who live or work nearby?
Well, you alluded to this, too. We think of data centers as new. They arrived with the AI era, but you mentioned giant buildings full of computers have been around for a good while now, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, for decades. But what we're seeing is just the acceleration of their building because these companies, OpenAI, Meta, Google, Amazon, they need more power. They need these data centers to continue to grow their AI operations and their data operations. But it's not just AI. It's also, the Netflix streaming that we're doing and the cellular needs of our phones, those data needs. But I definitely see backlash of things like, Amazon announced plans for a West Texas data center that could be the biggest pollutant in the country. Oof. The single biggest source of pollution in the entire country from one data center. So, and they also had some backlash about a data center in California where they just really didn't open up for public comment. And, they didn't let people know about it. So definitely there's certain tech companies that I think are becoming associated with data centers, and the backlash is being directed at them as well.
Omar Gallaga writes about tech for CNET and joins us each week here on The Standard. Omar, thanks so much.
I sure appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
More data center coverage coming up later in the program, namely why a huge El Paso project may be getting a pass from Governor Abbott's new regulations. Up next, a check-in on flood recovery in a small Texas city hit hard last month. Stay with us on the Texas Standard.
Support for Texas Standard comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, committed to strengthening the state's workforce and its communities through safety and wellness grants and education initiatives. More at texasmutual.com/community impact.
It's the Texas Standard. I'm Laura Rice. The debate over how local officials in Texas interact and work with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has played out differently across the state. Now, several San Antonio area lawmakers are questioning why local governments are signing immigration enforcement agreements with the federal government. Texas Public Radio's Corey Cook reports.
The criticism comes as 6 Bexar County municipalities participate in the 287G program. The agreement allows trained local law enforcement officers to perform certain immigration enforcement duties under ICE supervision. Representative Barbara Gervin Hawkins says some municipalities may be attracted to the program because of federal financial support. But she says cities should not trade their independence for federal money.
I know that there are budget shortages in different cities and municipalities. But here's the deal. Let's not sell out. Let's not sell out to Rome.
The 6 Bexar County municipalities with 287G agreements are Balcones Heights, Hollywood Park, China Grove, St. Hedwig, Sandy Oaks, and Von Ormy. The city of San Antonio does not have a 287G agreement with ICE. The partnerships are made directly between local law enforcement agencies and the federal government. I'm Corey Cook in San Antonio.
And you're listening to the Texas Standard. It's been close to a month since rain pummeled south central Texas, causing record-breaking flooding. 3 people died, and hundreds of homes were damaged or destroyed. The disaster hit just after we marked the 1-year anniversary of 2025's catastrophic flooding. More than 130 people died last year, mostly along the Guadalupe River in the Texas Hill Country. While this July's disaster had a much smaller death toll, the flooding spread across a wider geographic area, inundating dozens of small Texas towns that were spared last year. Among them was Crystal City. It's home to around 6,000 people and is the seat of Zavala County, which has one of the state's highest poverty rates. KERA's Priscilla Rice reports residents are making do with the help of volunteers as they wait for more assistance.
If you drove through Crystal City a month ago, before the Nueces River rose as high as 37 feet, it would look very different than it does today. Now, construction equipment outside homes overpowers the local birds, crickets, and cicadas. The Chula Vista neighborhood is off FM 65, which runs along one of Nueces River's tributaries. Tires, furniture, and other destroyed possessions are piled in front of houses. An empty lot has become a makeshift landfill. A few horses and goats chew overgrown grass outside gutted buildings. On the other side of town, you'll find the Sagebrush Motel. The lobby is filled with buckets of cleaning supplies, bags of food, and home essentials like paper towels. This 50-room hotel has become one of several community hubs for locals who've lost everything. Darian Thompson manages a hotel.
So we've had an influx of people. We have about, I would say, 5 to 6 rooms of displaced people, but when it first started, we had pretty much the whole hotel full.
According to the Zavala County Sheriff's Office, over 100 homes in the area saw some sort of flooding, from minimal to extreme. Thompson's own home was flooded, but she can still live there.
We have a couple people who were told that their houses are going to be bulldozed. So they're going to be with us until they can find housing. So we've been trying to help them find housing.
In the weeks since the flood, the hotel lobby stayed busy. Volunteers rotate through, including lifelong Crystal City resident Martha Segura.
I mean, we love our small little community. Everyone's tight-knit.
She's lived here 5 decades and says nothing like this has happened before. So she's taking time off work to pitch in.
I've been in the houses. We've cleaned. We've gutted. We moved some families into their whole entire life in boxes into a storage room.
Segura's going door to door in the hardest hit neighborhoods, making sure residents have what they need and connecting them with assistance.
Yeah, I'm sorry I get emotional. Is that it's something very near and dear to my heart that when something happens, I want to make sure that everybody gets the help that they need.
Volunteers have also come from outside the community, like Jane Smith, who's staying at the Sagebrush.
I called Uvalde first, then I called Hondo, called Kerrville, and the big cities usually get help first. So I looked on Facebook. This man was talking about how they needed stuff in Crystal City.
She's driven 4 hours from El Campo, Texas twice so far. On this Saturday morning, Smith drives around recovering neighborhoods to give away food and check in.
Let me drive down there so you don't have to walk.
Today she meets Diana Bustamante, whose house filled with several feet of water last month.
I'm overwhelmed because I've never been through something like this.
Her husband helped rip off the exterior walls up to where the water rose. Now, the sidings are replaced with plywood. Inside, it's almost empty. The appliances and furniture had to be thrown away. Bustamante says her family saved paycheck by paycheck to buy the property, but still, they're thankful they're alive.
I have it bad, but I don't have it as bad as other people. We have a lot of elderly people that they lost it all. And they're handicapped, You know, they had to find shelter for them. So I'm one of the blessed ones. Even though I lost a lot, I'm one of the blessed ones.
For now, she lives next door to her son in his trailer home, which was spared. A few blocks away, Luisa Martinez sweeps her front porch where her remaining belongings are stacked. Her daughter's ivory quinceañera dress with a gold trim lays on top of the pile.
Well, actually, only the stuff that you see here on the front porch. That's what I have left. Other than that, I don't have nothing else.
Her house has also been emptied, with the exception of a few things, and a fish tank that houses the family's pet axolotl. For now, she's dealing with the unexpected expense of renting an apartment.
I came to clean up, get some few stuff that I have out because this company that's going to come and help me remove everything and put it there on the front to be taken away.
Outside, a group of volunteers haul debris from a nearby residence. They've been working for hours in over 100-degree heat. Martinez hopes to get back in her house sooner than later.
Well, right now, we're just waiting. Hopefully, FEMA helps us or any agency, Red Cross. We're just waiting. All we could do is just wait.
The moves needed to unlock several streams of federal assistance haven't been made yet. Zavala County spokesperson Marcial Garza says he's hopeful a major disaster declaration will soon be issued by President Donald Trump. Local business owner Andrelyn Marquez understands the confusion.
So you see the questions on Facebook that, where's FEMA, where's the help? A lot of that comes from not necessarily knowing the process of things.
And that process, the recovery process, could be a long one. Marquez says it'll take quite a while before things start feeling normal again.
Nobody built their house in one day, and it's not going to be repaired in one day. This is going to be anywhere from a 3-month to a year plan for Crystal City or those victims that do have the damages to their houses.
The silver lining, she says, is how the disaster has shone a spotlight on Crystal City's resilience and unity. Marquez knows the people here won't let anyone go without food, water, or housing, and that the community will get through this together. I'm Priscilla Rice in Crystal City.
Support for Texas Standard comes from UT San Antonio, offering degree programs and research focused on workforce development, student success, and health innovation across Texas. The University of Ambition, ambition.utsa.edu.
From the Texas Newsroom, I'm Matt Harrop. A high school football player in Austin has died after experiencing a medical emergency at practice. 17-year-old Odin Hensley was a lineman on the varsity team for Lake Travis. He collapsed on Monday and was in intensive care. The superintendent announced his death in a letter sent to parents last night. An investigation is underway into the crash of a military helicopter in a rural area near Fort Hood. Cliff Coleman is the public information officer for the Bell County Sheriff's Department.
We know that from the Fort Hood Criminal Investigation Division, who is leading this investigation, that this was an Apache helicopter and 2 souls were on board. They were pronounced deceased.
The helicopter went down Wednesday afternoon in a grassy field, sparking a fire that burned more than 150 acres. Military leaders confirmed that both victims were soldiers at Fort Hood. An appeals court has reinstated some of the mail-in voting restrictions passed by Texas lawmakers in 2021. Several of the provisions under Senate Bill 1 have been on hold after being challenged as being too cumbersome and a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. A 3-judge panel with the Fifth Circuit ruled the plaintiffs lacked standing to challenge the law. Protesters are speaking out against construction in Big Bend National Park. Construction crews have started grading roads and clearing land to install barriers. Billy Bartko is a river outfitter from nearby Terlingua.
I believe this is really about federal versus local. It's about intimately knowledgeable versus not knowledgeable at all. And so you have an educated local group trying to get the message out that this is ridiculous.
Some lawmakers, including U.S. Senator John Cornyn, have raised concerns about the project. Texas lawmakers are looking at safety concerns caused by the proliferation of drones. Dr. Michael McGee is an expert on drone technology with the RAND Corporation.
This extensive, incredible technology is available to everybody. And I think that, again, we are just at the infancy And this is something that Texas is going to be dealing with for the next 50 years.
He was one of the witnesses who spoke before a state Senate committee in Austin. Lawmakers heard testimony on the widespread use of drones by smugglers and cartels. And a surrogate mother at the center of a custody dispute has given birth in Dallas. McKenna West lives in Alaska and was under contract with a couple in California. She came to Texas seeking legal support after the couple asked her to have an abortion when a congenital heart defect was detected within the fetus. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has intervened on her behalf. I'm Matt Harrop in the Texas Newsroom.
You're listening to statewide news from public radio stations across Texas. This coverage is only possible because of support from listeners like you. You can help sustain and grow Texas news coverage by donating to your local public radio station today.
33 minutes past the hour, Texas Standard Time. I'm Angela Kocherga. At the 2026 World Athletics Indoor Championships in Poland, the men's 800-meter race came down to a tight finish, as you can hear in this audio from NBC Sports.
Adewee was trying to find some room on the inside. Bull there in fourth. Creston and the teenager from the United States, Cooper Lutkenhaus, world champion.
Cooper Lutkenhaus wasn't just the world champion in the 800. At 17 years old, he became the sport's youngest ever gold medal winner. When he's not setting new records on the track, Lutkenhaus attends Northwest High School in Justin, just north of Fort Worth. Liam Tharm, who covers track and field for The Athletic, recently wrote a long feature about the teenage phenom and what might come next for him. Liam, welcome to the Texas Standard.
Thanks so much for having me. Hello.
So how long has Cooper been on your radar?
On my radar, going back to kind of last summer at US Nationals, he had a real breakout performance there, ran a really, really strong semi-final. There's 2 rounds before the final. Came back really hard, stumbled a bit in the race actually, and ran a really good time, and then qualified for the World Championships, which was just quite incredible in a really stacked field. I think he just completely broke onto the scene with that.
Well, every once in a while we see a teenager compete at the highest levels of professional soccer or basketball. How rare is this for track?
No, it happens. I mean, it happens a lot with US talent as well. I think the high school system is very good. You've got youngsters going into college, which Cooper's foregoing because he's turned professional already. But I think kind of the theory is that if the talent is there, it will kind of come through and shine through. But he's the first middle distance man in US track history to turn professional while in high school. There's a few that have done it out of high school, kind of graduated, but even by these standards, he's really, really good.
Well, now you got to know Lutkenhaus and his family a bit for this article. How would you say he's handling being a teenager and one of the world's biggest runners?
Yeah, he seems really quite chilled out when I spoke to him. I think he's got a really good family dynamic around him. His dad was a collegiate runner, mum, good athlete as well, and he's got 2 older brothers, both of whom are very good athletes, as you might imagine. I think that the genetics in the family are quite good. One of his older brothers runs at the University of Tulsa. He's a little bit slower than Cooper, still very, very good. So I think he's grown up in that sporting environment and has, looks so much better for it, kind of got that real competitive drive that you might imagine a younger sibling to have.
Well, in your opinion, what makes him so successful on the track?
I mean, he's really quick. That kind of goes without saying that you kind of need, the 800 meters is a hard race because you need speed, you need endurance, and it's kind of finding that right balance between both. If you've got kind of pure power, but you can't hold on, then you can lead in a race, but you're going to fall away. And if you got kind of the reverse and you don't quite have enough speed, then people are just going to run away from you. And he's quite tall, he's quite stocky, he's definitely well built for his age, and he runs really well late in races. You'll see him kind of being second or third when it comes towards kind of the final half lap, 200 meters or so, and he just he described it to me as kind of exploding out of a cannon is how his coach calls it. Really kind of kicking hard, and he's beaten the Olympic champion Emmanuel Wanyonyi, in a kind of a big sprint finish like that. Beating Marco Arop, the North American record holder, in the same kind of way. So not only is he kind of really good and physically really talented, but he's got a really smart racing brain, which we don't really say a lot about kind of youngsters, but normally it takes him a few years to kind of develop that over time. He just seems to have this built in.
Well, Lutkenhaus didn't compete in the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris. Do you think it's a pretty good bet that we'll see him in Los Angeles in 2028?
I mean, US trials as a Brit kind of watching from over the pond is always pretty brutal. I mean, he, qualified for World Championships last year off the back of running in a really, really stacked final. There's some really talented American athletes that end up, just because of how good the depth is there, that don't end up making kind of championships. Josh Hoey's missed out, a man with real kind of indoor success. Same goes for kind of Bryce Hoppel. Donovan Brazier's now come back onto the scene. So part of the challenge is there's only kind of 3 spots. So he will also have to go there on the day and kind of qualify and earn the right. And often, actually, I think US trials, in terms of succeeding there and making the team, is almost equivalent to that kind of global final. It's almost like going to an Olympics to make the Olympics. But he's absolutely got the talent. And it's probably just a case of over the next couple of years, managing him, dealing with ups and downs. He's still a youngster. This is only his first professional season. I don't think we can expect him to always be at this level. Trying to deal with injuries and his body maturing, but I mean, where his season might be is it's a scary thought.
We've been speaking to Liam Tharm, reporter for The Athletic, and we'll have a link to his full story on Texas runner Cooper Lutkenhaus over at texasstandard.org. Liam, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Support for Texas Standard comes from Half Price Books, a Texas-bred new and used bookstore, proudly supporting public media and sustainability by keeping books, music, and other media in circulation. Store locations and more information at hpb.com.
It's not just about the brisket or the ribs or the sausage or even the sides. It's the culture and people who are passionate about it. Where there's smoke, there's Daniel Vaughn, Texas Monthly Barbecue Editor. Join us next Thursday on the Texas Standard.
Support for Where There's Smoke comes from HEB.
This is the Texas Standard. I'm Laura Rice. When an East Texas artist saw video after video of flooding in her hometown of Hunt last year, she felt helpless, so she turned to watercolor. Inspired by the image of a muddy, stuffed bunny, Janelle McCall created a children's book about finding hope after the flood. It's a story that may prove useful again as that area is recovering from a second year of damaging storms. McCall's cousin Phyllis Sample still lives in Kerrville. She told Texas State student journalist Hope Monty about the conversations that brought about the book, Stuffy and the Great Flood.
I just can't describe to you how awful it looked. And she goes, what people are not seeing is the trauma. We still have our memories. The house is 85 years, something like that. And it had never flooded. I remember it was 2 weeks after the flood. I went out there and I was kind of like, it was a month easily before I went back out there. I couldn't imagine being there, and it's terrifying. And, I can imagine our old house, and I'm thinking, I used to sleep at this end, and we always left the doors open. You could hear down below the rapids and the water. I can't imagine the water coming in. You're getting out of bed, and it's up to here, and I'm thinking, if my parents had been there, they would have got out. I don't think they would have gotten out. Somebody posts a picture of this doll, and she paints it. At some point, I said, I want one of these pictures. And then, she's magic. She writes this book. We wanted the money to go to the Hunt Preservation Society, and the purpose of it is not a profit. It's just get it out there for whoever wants it. And it's very comforting. It was healing seeing the pictures and my own memories.
Phyllis Sample spoke with Texas State student journalist Hope Monty about the book she worked on with her cousin, artist Janelle McCall. Stuffy and the Great Flood includes images and memories from their childhood in the Hill Country and is meant to inspire hope in the face of devastation. Some of the book's proceeds go to the Hunt Preservation Society, which works on flood recovery in the Hunt community. Well, you may have heard Austin proudly calls itself the live music capital of the world. But the city is no longer the affordable college town it was when it picked up the title. Many musicians struggle just trying to live in Austin and pay all their bills. KUT's Olivia Aldridge reports on a local advocacy group that helps make at least one aspect of life a little more affordable.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? How we doing?
Zach Morgan is a funk keyboardist in Austin. These days, he's pretty established. He plays with a bunch of bands around town. He's 38 and married and thinking about having a kid. But to get started on this path, he needed a big push. That came in 2015 when he lost his job in tech.
I was like, okay, well, maybe this is my sign to try the full-time music thing. Step one in that was like, get health insurance again.
Coming from the corporate world, it was intimidating to think about figuring out health benefits on his own. He found help from the nonprofit Health Alliance for Austin Musicians, or HAM.
That's part of being able to make this whole thing work, I think.
HAM subsidizes the monthly insurance premiums for thousands of musicians who buy plans through the Affordable Care Act marketplace. They partner with Central Health, a public agency that provides healthcare resources for low-income residents of Austin and surrounding Travis County. Together, they plan to spend about $4 million on the program this year. Rachel Blair is Chief Strategy Officer for HAM.
When you think about the average HAM member making about $30,000 a year, there's no way that they would be able to spend a third of their income on healthcare.
Here's how it's worked for the past decade. HAM members enroll in one of the plans that Central Health offers on the marketplace. And if they fall within a certain income range, they'll get a federal subsidy for part of the monthly premium. Central Health covers the rest. Musicians who don't quite fit in the income criteria, maybe because they make a little more, can still get about half their premium costs covered directly by HAM. Blair says musicians who are insured are healthier, and they don't have to worry as much about falling ill or getting in an accident while on the road.
That chronic stress erodes our health. It impacts creativity. It impacts a willingness to take a risk, to go out and be a creative entrepreneur, to be a musician, to put yourself out there in a very physical way.
HAM's work has become a model for other cities that have live music scenes. Some of them, like New Orleans and Nashville, also have programs for getting musicians health care. In Texas, HAM helped launch a similar program in Denton. That's where the University of North Texas has its top-rated music and arts schools. Roy Orbison, Nora Jones, Meatloaf, and others got their start in Denton.
There's a very long history of jazz, weird art rock. The visual arts community here is very strong.
That's Jennifer Kapanos, president of the Denton Music and Arts Collaborative. They want local musicians and artists to stick around.
More and more people were maybe graduating college and leaving and going to find better opportunities other places.
The Denton Group offers a subsidy of $100 a month to help local musicians and artists buy insurance. Back in Austin, the restaurant industry is another important part of the local economy. Central Health just started another partnership like HAM's to help insure waiters, cooks, and other food workers. Kit Abney-Spelse with Central Health says they like to work with specific industries that already have networks they can tap.
I think some people believe that, if you just say it, like, hey, free insurance for you, that people will just come. And that's not always the case.
The model does have gaps. In most states, the very lowest income people are covered by Medicaid, not the marketplace plans. But Texas is one of 10 states that did not expand Medicaid, so those people can't get coverage through either option. HAM tries to help musicians in that situation get low-cost doctor's appointments when they can. And for people who do qualify, it's gotten more expensive. Insurance rates are rising everywhere. and Congress decided to cut back on subsidies for marketplace plans in 2026. Rachel Blair says HAM has had to turn people away. The percentage of HAM members who are insured dropped from 95 to 91% this year.
While it is a decrease, we feel really proud of being able to stay as high as we are, and we're working to get back as best we can.
In September, HAM will hold its yearly festival and fundraiser. Bands will play at grocery stores, parking lots, even on the steps of the Texas Capitol, doing their part to raise enough money to help pay for their health care in 2027. I'm Olivia Aldridge in Austin.
This story comes from NPR's partnership with KUT and KFF Health News.
Support for Texas Standard comes from TrialMed, conducting clinical research for over 30 years. Info on current trials in Texas at trialmed.com.
It's the Texas Standard. I'm Laura Rice. Governor Greg Abbott announced new guidelines last week aimed at making sure Texas data centers, quote, pay their own way, including covering the cost of their energy infrastructure, reusing water, and moving away from taxpayer-funded incentives. But there's a big question about what those guidelines mean for one of the state's largest data center projects, Meta's $14 billion facility now under construction in Northeast El Paso. Diego Mendoza Moyers covers energy and the environment for El Paso Matters and has been following this project closely. Diego, welcome back to the Texas Standard.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we've talked about data centers in El Paso on the Standard before, but give us a refresher about this Meta project, which received a big incentive package from the city.
Yeah, so Meta started building this facility, or I should say they sought tax breaks for this facility from El Paso, the city of El Paso and county, back in late 2023, when the environment was quite a bit different. I think the public perception quite a bit different of AI data centers. So the city and county were very keen at that time to award 80% break on property taxes for about 25 years. And the city also added on top of that $12.5 million to improve the roads around Meta's data center. So again, 3 years ago, very different environment and I think much less public backlash at the time over those deals that have since become very unpopular.
Right. So we're talking about this now because of Abbott's guidelines. They specifically mention ERCOT, but El Paso isn't part of the ERCOT grid. So how does that factor into this Meta project, or does it just not apply at all?
Yeah, so this is one of those announcements that can make you a little bit jaded about politics and government, right? Because the governor issues this announcement about how he's going to protect everybody and make sure that, you know, nobody's utility bills go up or the water supply is affected or you know, that cities are giving out tax breaks and so forth to these facilities. But then when you look at the local context around the state, and for every data center is so different and it so depends on the local situation. So as you said, El Paso is on a different grid than ERCOT. And so the governor was threatening, hey, data centers that don't comply with these directives I'm issuing, we will threaten with, you know, not connecting into the ERCOT grid. Well, what does that mean for this power plant that Meta's having developed to power its data center that isn't going to be on ERCOT? And of course, the Public Utility Commission of Texas also regulates the entire state, not just the ERCOT grid. So, you know, maybe we see the PUC exercise some influence that way now that the governor's making his voice heard. But the fact is, the directives that the governor issued, we have no idea what they mean for El Paso, if anything, right? And so it's very easy to say, oh, we're going to protect every ratepayer, but not answering the questions of what that means in the local context in every community where a data center is being built.
Well, you just hinted at this. A big part of this data center project is the McCloud power plant that El Paso Electric wants to build for Meta. So what exactly is that plant, and what do we know about who is going to pay for it?
Yeah, so this is where things get a little bit complex. But so El Paso Electric, the investor-owned utility that serves, our area of far west Texas as well as southern New Mexico, they entered into agreement with Meta to build a power plant that's really less of a traditional power plant and really just a bunch of, it's over 800 small generators kind of stacked together because Meta said, El Paso Electric, we don't have time for you to build a power plant, a solar farm. Put together whatever source of energy you can as soon as possible for our facility. So El Paso Electric said, sure, we'll oblige. And they're now developing this collection of generators called the McCloud plant for Meta. for 5 years, it will only be connected to Meta's data center. Meta will pay all the costs. After that 5 years, El Paso Electric has signaled it wants to tie it into the entire grid and have us all pay for it. So it's this power plant that El Paso Electric is only building because Meta's demanding it. And now El Paso Electric saying that they want to put that into the rates that we all pay in a few years. What does that mean for Abbott's directive about making sure that bills don't go up as a result of data centers? Does that run afoul of that rule? I think you could make the case it does. But this is what I mean about these complexities in the local context determine everything. And so when you issue these statewide directives, it's really hard to interpret what that means at a local level with these very complex projects.
Well, I understand it's not just the governor sending out press releases. Meta put out its own press release in response to what Governor Abbott issued. What did they have to say about Abbott's guidelines?
Yeah, so they both issued these kind of very similar press releases where they're both saying, look, Meta's, we're on board with what Abbott's saying. We're on board with responsible data center development. We're going to do great and it's going to be wonderful. Well, of course, Meta, when I followed up, didn't address questions about, are you still going to use, quote, outdated tax breaks? So, of course, Meta isn't giving up its very lucrative tax break deal with the city. And the city of El Paso confirmed that, no, our contract with Meta that we signed back in 2023 is still in place. And so they both issued these press releases, very kumbaya. Yes, we're very much on board with Governor Abbott's directives, but what that really means, I don't think that it means that Meta's not going to still receive public subsidies.
So I guess bottom line, do Abbott's new guidelines actually change anything for Meta's data center in El Paso?
Well, I think the one thing that they could change maybe is the perception of Abbott in the minds of voters, right? Let's not forget that in November, we have an election coming up. And I don't want to be too cynical. I think that it's natural for any governor to respond to voter concerns about an issue. But let's not forget that last November, Governor Abbott issued a press release hailing a $40 billion investment by Google in data centers in Texas and calling Texas the epicenter of AI development. And so I just think that if anything, this is more of a political statement than something that's going to change the reality on the ground for data centers and the impact they have on local communities.
I guess that is a really interesting point. And I wonder what you've seen as this attention has grown on data centers. Was this something that flew under the radar originally for El Pasoans? Did they not really quite even get what a data center was? And now we're here and they're everywhere. And the level of, animosity towards them has grown?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. When the city of El Paso, again, approved these tax breaks and the county of El Paso as well for Meta back in late 2023, I think it was looked at as like, hey, great, a big tech company want to invest and pay taxes? Like, sure, we'll incentivize that, no problem. And so now that, again, almost 3 years ago, and we saw, of course, Abbott welcome these investments. We saw the mayor of El Paso, Renard Johnson, even last year was very much hailing this investment by Meta. And the city of El Paso, much like the governor's office, has pivoted to go, we need to put protections in place. We need to be more skeptical of these data center investments. And so I think it was just very much a thing of the perception shifting very publicly in the last year or so.
Now, we've been talking about this, as you said, for years, or El Paso has, bringing this facility to the area. Where does it sit right now as far as construction goes? When is it going to be complete? When is it going to be online?
Yeah, so it's very much under construction, massive site near the Texas-New Mexico state line. Meta has said that the value of the land and the sort of the things it's built so far worth $2.3 billion. So a lot of money Meta's already poured into the site. El Paso Electric is seeking approval from the Public Utility Commission to build the power plant for it right next door. And so that's really where it's at. We'll see if the PUC responds to Governor Abbott's directives and either denies them this power plant or puts in protections for ratepayers. We'll see. But yeah, the facility is very much under construction. Meta's partnering with BlackRock to pay for it all, and they say it'll be done in about 2 years. And when it is, it'll be the biggest taxpayer in El Paso. So it's very much underway.
Diego Mendoza Moyers covers energy and the environment for El Paso Matters. Diego, thank you again.
Appreciate you for having me.
Well, you can keep up with Texas Standard anytime at texasstandard.org. We're also on social media, and you never have to miss out by subscribing to the Texas Standard podcast. It's available in all the usual places, including YouTube. Another way to keep up with the news from across the state is to sign up for the Talk of Texas. It's our free twice-weekly newsletter, and you can sign up at texasstandard.org. Texas Standard's producers and reporters include Sarah Ash, Shelley Brisbane, Michael Marks, and Sean Saldana. Raul Alonso is our assistant digital editor. Leah Scarpelli is our director, and Reina Sevilla and Caroline File are our technical directors. The Texas Standard's executive producer is Rhonda Fanning.
Philanthropic support for Texas Standard comes from Casey and Scott O'Hare, the Winkler Family Foundation, Lynn Dobson and Greg Woldridge, Adrian Killam, the George Huntington Family, and the Cynthia and George Mitchell Foundation.